There's a night from my childhood that I can recall with almost impossible clarity. It feels less like a memory and more like a place I can still visit. It was the summer I turned 10, a season saturated with the thick, sweet smell of honeysuckle and the symphony of crickets that signaled the end of another long, sun-drenched day. That specific night, the air was different, charged with a kind of electric freedom. We started a game of hide-and-seek that spiraled into an epic neighborhood-wide event that lasted until the first hints of dawn painted the sky. I don't usually share this kind of thing with many people, but those who enjoy hearing stories like this understand how some experiences just keep haunting your thoughts. If you're into this too, make sure to subscribe. It really helps me keep sharing stories like this here. I remember the exact texture of the world that night. The asphalt was still radiating the day's heat, warm against my bare arms, as I army crawled under Mrs. Gable's overgrown azalea bushes. The damp, earthy smell of the soil filled my nostrils, a stark contrast to the distant aroma of someone's late-night barbecue. Every sound was magnified in the stillness, the rustle of leaves as a cat slinked by, the far-off laughter of other kids echoing through the quiet streets, the rhythmic, hypnotic chirp of the cicadas. My heart pounded a frantic but exhilarating rhythm against my ribs, a drumbeat of pure, unadulterated joy. I was tucked into my hiding spot, waiting for my best friend, Sam, to find me, convinced it was the single greatest night of my entire life, a perfect bubble of time. The strange thing is, that bubble seems to exist only for me. For years I've held that night as a benchmark for happiness, a secret, golden memory. But as I got older, I started to notice something unsettling. Whenever I'd bring it up with my old friends from the neighborhood, a weird quiet would fall over the conversation. They'd exchange these quick, uncomfortable glances, offering vague smiles and changing the subject. At first I thought they had just forgotten. After all, we were just kids. But the consistency of their reaction, a shared amnesia that felt more like a deliberate pact of silence, started to creep under my skin. It wasn't just a forgotten game. It was a memory that they seemed determined to bury, and I couldn't understand why. Now, I live in a cramped city apartment where the sounds are of sirens and anonymous neighbors, a world away from the sprawling, quiet suburb where I grew up. My life is orderly, routine-driven. I work as an archivist, a job that revolves around piecing together fragmented histories from dusty records, which is ironic, I suppose. I've always been detail-oriented, someone who latches onto specifics, and maybe that's why this memory of that summer night has such a hold on me. It's a perfect, complete file in a mental cabinet filled with faded, disjointed moments. It feels more real than my present-day reality, a vibrant anchor in the otherwise grey sea of adulthood. My therapist calls it a fixation, a refusal to let go of the past. I just call it the last time I remember feeling truly safe. Our street, Maple Creek Lane, was the quintessential picture of 1990s suburbia. Every house was a variation of the same beige or pale blue model, with neatly manicured lawns and identical oak trees lining the sidewalks. In summer, the air was thick and heavy, tasting of chlorine from backyard pools and the exhaust from lawnmowers. It was a place that prided itself on its peacefulness, its predictability. But looking back, there was an undercurrent of something else, a kind of suffocating quiet, where every family's secrets were hidden behind perfectly painted front doors, the kind of place where things that didn't fit the pristine image were simply not spoken of, pushed down beneath the surface like stones into soft mud, creating ripples no one ever acknowledged. My world on that street revolved almost entirely around Sam. He wasn't just my best friend, he was the other half of my thoughts. We lived 2 houses apart, and our bedroom windows faced each other. We had a system of flashlight signals for late-night conversations. Sam was the brave one, the imaginative one who came up with our grandest adventures, while I was the cautious observer, the loyal follower. He was the one who could turn a simple game of hide-and-seek into a nocturnal quest of epic proportions. My sense of self was completely tied up in our friendship. His approval was my compass, his presence, my security. Without him, the world felt unsteady, unpredictable. The memory of waiting for him to find me in the dark wasn't just about the game, it was about waiting for my anchor to appear. The constant gnawing dissonance finally became too much to bear. I needed proof, a concrete answer one way or the other. So last month, fueled by a mix of caffeine and a desperate need for validation, I decided to orchestrate a confrontation. I found Chloe, Ben, and another old friend, Maya, on social media and started a group chat. The pretense was simple. A blast from the past virtual reunion to catch up after all these years. My heart hammered against my ribs as I typed the initial, "Hey, remember me" message. It felt like I was an archaeologist about to tap on the wall of a sealed tomb, terrified of what I might find inside, but even more terrified of the echoing silence of not knowing what lay beyond. For the first 20 minutes of our video call, it was perfect. The awkwardness melted away into laughter as we recalled other, safer memories. Mr. Henderson's poodle that was terrified of squirrels, the time we tried to build a raft to sail down the creek, the taste of the impossibly sour candy we were all obsessed with. I let the warm nostalgia build a bridge between us, waiting for the right moment. Then, I took a deep breath and steered the conversation. "Speaking of crazy nights," I began, forcing a casual smile, "I was just thinking about that epic all-night game of hide and seek, the one that went on until sunrise. Sam was it for half of it, remember? The change was instantaneous and chilling. 3 smiling faces on my screen froze, their laughter dying in their throats. Ben cleared his throat, his gaze dropping to his desk. Maya suddenly looked pale, her smile replaced by a tight, pained line. It was Chloe who finally spoke, her voice gentle but with an edge of clinical pity that made my skin crawl. "Hey," she said softly, her eyes full of a sorrow I didn't understand. "Are you doing okay? That summer, a lot happened. It was really chaotic for everyone. It's easy to get memories mixed up from back then." Her words were meant to be kind, a soft cushion, but they landed like a punch to the gut. She wasn't just saying she didn't remember. She was telling me my most cherished memory, the cornerstone of my childhood, was a lie, a fabrication of a confused mind. Chloe's words lit a fire under my obsession. For the next week, I tore through my apartment, unearthing dusty boxes from my parents' attic that I hadn't opened in decades. I was looking for tangible proof, a relic from that perfect night. I found a shoebox labeled Summer '99 and dumped its contents onto my living room floor. There were dozens of faded photographs. Me and Chloe with ice cream smeared on our faces, Ben falling off his bike, pictures from a pool party. I saw all of us, happy and sun-kissed, but as I arranged them chronologically, a cold dread seeped into my bones. There were no pictures of the hide-and-seek game. Worse, in the photos from the last week of July, the week of the game, Sam was missing from the group shots, and in the one photo I found of him, he wasn't smiling. He was just standing by his front porch, looking small and tired. Driven by a growing panic, I sent a private message to Maya, the one who looked the most haunted during our call. I apologized for being pushy, but I pleaded with her to tell me what was going on. Her reply came back within minutes, a short, terse message that made the hair on my arms stand up. "Please, just leave it alone, for your own good. We don't ever talk about that night, not because of a game, because of what really happened. You were there, you saw it, how can you not remember?" Her words were a key turning a lock in a door I didn't even know existed. Sometimes I wonder if anyone else has ever been through something like this. That's why I keep sharing these stories here. If you enjoy these strange accounts too, subscribe. It gives me strength to keep bringing more. Her message sent me spiraling. I needed to see the street, not in my memory, but as it was now. I spent hours on an online map service, using their Street View archives to travel back in time. I navigated the digital ghost of Maple Creek Lane, the familiar beige and blue houses still standing, frozen under a perpetual summer sun. Everything was exactly as I remembered it. The cracks in the sidewalk, the basketball hoop on Ben's driveway, Mrs. Gable's overgrown bushes. But then I arrived at Sam's house, number 214. My breath caught in my chest. It wasn't his house. The structure standing there now was newer, a brick-faced colonial completely different from the simple ranch-style homes around it. And the magnificent, ancient oak tree that stood in his front yard, the one we always used as home base, was gone. There was just a smooth, unblemished lawn where it should have been. Sleep became a battlefield. The comforting, golden-hued dream of that night began to decay. The edges frayed, letting in darkness. The sound of distant, happy laughter was now distorted, morphing into something else. A muffled screaming that seemed to come from very far away. The sweet smell of honeysuckle in my dream was now thick and acrid, like burning plastic. I'd find myself in my hiding spot under the azaleas, but instead of feeling exhilarated, I was paralyzed with a primal terror I couldn't name. I was no longer waiting for a friend to find me. I was hiding from something. The air in the memory grew heavy, hot, and difficult to breathe, and I would wake up gasping, my sheets soaked in sweat, the phantom smell of smoke still lingering in my nostrils. I couldn't live with the ghosts anymore, not the ghost of a perfect memory, nor the ghost of the terrifying thing that was trying to replace it. The following Saturday I got in my car and drove the 3 hours back to Maple Creek Lane. With every mile, the carefully constructed walls of my beautiful memory crumbled further. Flashes of corrupted images assaulted me. The golden glow of dawn was now a pulsing, sickly orange. The sound of joyful shouting was now a high-pitched, metallic scream. The closer I got, the stronger the phantom smell of smoke became, so real that I had to roll down my car windows, gasping for fresh air. I was driving toward the one place on earth I desperately needed to be, and the one place my subconscious had been fighting to keep me away from for 15 years. I arrived just as the sun began to set, casting long, distorted shadows across the street that looked like grasping fingers. The neighborhood was just as I'd seen it online, eerily preserved, a living museum of my childhood, except for the gaping wound at number 214. Seeing the new, unfamiliar house in person, standing where Sam's home should have been, was a physical shock. It didn't belong. It felt like a poorly crafted lie, a cheap patch over a chasm. I parked my car across the street and just stared, my hands trembling on the steering wheel. The quiet was profound, a heavy blanket pressing down, and I knew that whatever truth was buried here, I had to dig it up myself, right now. My legs felt like lead as I got out of the car and walked almost in a trance toward Mrs. Gable's house. Her azalea bushes were still there, just as overgrown and unruly as I remembered. I knelt down, my hand reaching out, my fingers brushing against the waxy leaves. The moment my skin touched the plant, a jolt went through me. The damp, earthy smell rushed into my lungs, the same exact smell from my memory, but this time it wasn't comforting. It was the smell of fear. It was the smell of a small, terrified animal hiding in the dark. This was the spot, my hiding spot. I wasn't wrong about that, but I had been so wrong about why I was hiding. The sound came first. It wasn't the distant laughter of children. It was a siren, not one but many, a chorus of rising and falling wails that grew louder and louder until they were deafening, tearing the quiet night apart. Then the light. I squeezed my eyes shut, but the image was seared on the inside of my eyelids. It wasn't the soft, welcoming glow of approaching dawn. It was a frantic, hungry orange flickering that pulsed against the black sky, casting dancing, demonic shadows all over the houses and trees. A wave of heat washed over my face, real and searing, and the air grew thick, clogging my throat not with honeysuckle but with billowing, acrid smoke that tasted of ash and chemicals. My eyes snapped open, and I looked toward Sam's house. The new brick colonial vanished, and in its place the truth materialized. I saw his house, my friend's house, but it was being eaten alive by a monster of fire. Flames poured from the downstairs windows like a waterfall from hell, and black smoke billowed from the roof, blotting out the stars. The sound was a living thing, a deafening roar mixed with the sharp crackle of splintering wood and the shattering of glass. The sheer violence of it, the raw, untamed power, was hypnotic and sickening. This was the spectacle that had captured the neighborhood's attention that night. Not a game, a funeral pyre. And then I saw him. My memory didn't place him in the yard, laughing as he searched for us. It placed him in his second-story window, the one that faced mine. He wasn't the confident, brave leader of our games. He was a small, silhouetted figure, made tiny by the inferno raging behind him. I remembered it with sickening clarity, his frantic, desperate pounding on the window pane. I could see the shape of his mouth, open in a scream I couldn't hear over the roar of the fire and the wail of the sirens. He was looking right at me, right at my hiding spot. He wasn't looking for me as a playmate. He was looking for help. He was looking for a friend who was just hiding in the bushes, paralyzed by terror. The pieces of my carefully crafted delusion shattered all at once, the shards piercing me with a pain so intense it was physical. The game of hide-and-seek was a lie, a beautiful, intricate fantasy woven by the mind of a traumatized 10-year-old to shield himself from a reality too horrific to bear. There was no epic, all-night game. The running figures weren't children. They were neighbors in pajamas fleeing their homes. The flashing lights weren't from a stray flashlight. They were from the fire trucks and ambulances that choked the street. My hiding spot was real, but I was hiding from the heat, the smoke, the sight of my best friend's final moments on Earth. Back on the curb of the real Maple Creek Lane, my legs gave out. I collapsed onto the cold pavement, a raw, guttural sob tearing from my chest. The golden memory, my anchor, the one perfect thing I had held onto for my entire adult life, was gone. In its place was a crater of black, suffocating grief, and a guilt so profound it felt like it could swallow me whole. I hadn't just forgotten the worst night of my life. I had rewritten it. I had turned a catastrophe into a celebration, a death into a game. And now, alone on that silent street, I finally had to face the truth. I hadn't been waiting for Sam to find me. I had been watching him die. I don't know how long I sat there on the curb, the cold of the concrete seeping into my bones as twilight bled into true night. The streetlights flickered on with a soft hum, casting pools of lonely artificial light onto the perfect lawns. The world kept moving, but mine had stopped. My entire life, my personality, the quiet nostalgia that I thought defined me, it was all built on a foundation of sand, and the tide had finally come in. Who am I without that golden night? I'm not the boy who had a perfect childhood memory. I'm the boy who hid under a bush while his best friend's world turned to ash, and then built a beautiful lie to live inside. The truth didn't set me free. It just left me empty, adrift in a past that is infinitely darker than I ever could have imagined. My thoughts drifted to Chloe, Ben, and Maya. Their pitying looks, their gentle deflections, their shared pact of silence. It all made a terrible, painful kind of sense now. For years I must have seemed like a ghost to them, a walking embodiment of a tragedy they were all trying to forget, blissfully unaware of the horror I was glossing over with my talk of a magical game. They weren't protecting a secret. They were protecting me. They saw the fragile fantasy I was living in and chose not to shatter it. Was it kindness or was it cruelty? To leave me in my painless lie for so long. I feel a strange, hollow ache of gratitude mixed with a profound resentment that leaves me utterly alone with this rediscovered grief. The street is quiet now, just as it was before the sirens. I can hear the crickets starting their nightly song, a sound I once associated with joy, but now it just sounds like an elegy. The truth didn't bring closure or understanding. It just replaced a beautiful ghost with a monstrous one. I don't know what happens now, how to mourn a friend 15 years too late, or how to rebuild a self from the rubble of a cherished memory. I suppose the past is never truly dead. It just finds new, more terrifying ways to haunt you. I don't know if I'll ever fully understand what happened, but as long as these stories keep haunting me, I'll keep sharing them here. If you want to hear more, subscribe. It really helps keep this space alive.